they're basically getting into situations that are between people. If you have a loud argument with your girlfriend, I mean, you get arrested. So that means having a loud argument is illegal now. Or they can't make stuff like that illegal, but at the same time, they since you can't tell, since there's a line, and it's a difficult line, they have to adopt some kind of rule. So it's solvable, but it's also a dilemma. It's also really a great challenge, which means that it's something that's really worth working on. As a core part of an awareness campaign, finding some way to help people like me even recognize this. I remember when I was a kid and my mom said, "Oh, that woman's a prostitute." We were driving by some area. She said, "That one's a prostitute." I'm like, "How do you know that?" "Well, look at how she's dressed." "Okay, but do all prostitutes dress like that? If anyone dressed like that, that means they're a prostitute?" "Well, she's standing on the side of the road." "Well, so any woman standing on the side of the road is a prostitute." "Okay, I'll file that away, Mom." "Well, no, not any woman." "Well, how do I know which woman?" And to this day, I can't really tell. I think there are people who go, "Oh, that's obviously prostitutes." I'm like, I can't tell. I don't have that sense or that sixth sense or whatever it is. Some people are just they dress kind of provocatively, and they are waiting for a bus. I don't know. So I really feel like I need to know a lot more before I could say, "I'll bet you that there's a problem there."
One of Margaret's first things she said was, if we could get public awareness, that would help a lot. That people just don't know. They don't think it exists.
Yeah.
Right. But if I see somebody hit a child in public, I react really strongly to that. I will track that. I'll follow them to see what's going on. Was it just a little smack, or is this a really abusive kind of thing happening? I walked by somebody who was doing that in New York City once, and I had this twinge about it. I wasn't sure. This woman was yelling at this child, and she wasn't hitting him, but she was kind of just yelling at this kid, and it was kind of weird. And I thought, should I cross the street and stand there and just see if anything happens? And I was on my way to work. I decided not to. Later, I found out that the Today Show was doing some kind of test where they took a child and they put him outside their studio in the same street in Times Square where I was walking. I don't know if this was the person, but they were telling us, "Oh, look at these people just walking by." But it's hard, I don't like when people just walk by that either. But there are differences between really obvious signs of someone being attacked in the street and a situation where some parent is short-tempered and you if you get into that, then who knows what's going to happen. I saw a woman being chased by a pickup truck once. While I was walking home in the middle of the night I got this all-night grocery store, and I just had groceries, and she was walking toward me on the other side of the street near my apartment complex, and there was a pickup truck following her really slowly on the street. So that's unusual. So then she starts running, and the guy jumps out of his pickup truck, leaves it in the middle of the street, and chases her into a courtyard. Okay, so obviously something's going on there. So I cross the street, and I start walking up to them. They're screaming at each other. And I said, "You want some help?" And they both screamed at me, like, get the fuck out of here. Like, they both did. Even she did. Let me turn that off. But I'm not going to go. I mean, not when that's happening, not when the guy's doing something like that. Plus, he wasn't that big. If he was like 7 foot tall, I might...
Did you have your shirt on?
No, only thing I wonder in those kinds of situations is is he got a knife or a weapon of some kind, in which case I have to, think a little bit about whether I'm going to attack now or stand off and call the police. But I so I just stood there. I didn't know what to do because they both had told me to go away. So I just stood there for a bit, and I thought, maybe I'll go in anyway. But then finally she said, tell him to leave me alone. So I thought, that's my invitation. So I just walk up, and he starts pleading his case to me. Like, this is why it's reasonable for me to be trying to get her to get in my car. That they were, I guess, boyfriend, girlfriend had some kind of fight. She wanted to go take a bus home, and right. But as I was talking to him, I'd just taken a class in communication skills, listening skills. So I decided I would use my listening skills, and if they didn't work, I'd tackle them, So I thought, listening skills first. And it really worked. He started calming down and calming down. She eventually just walked off, and he didn't chase her. He just kept talking to me. And eventually I figured she'd gotten away, and I disengaged myself. But he was just really freaking angry. He was just out of control. And the thing is that was obvious. Somebody, a pickup truck, slowly following a person walking on the street, and then two people running off, screaming at each other. Okay, that's a sign. Check that off on your checklist. You got that. But I think that's only happened to me once in my entire life that I've seen something like that. That was so obvious. So what you can do for me is help me understand, really in definitive detail, what the signs are. You see posters for some things, like at airports or something, like for SARS or one of these diseases or something. Like, do you have a stuffy nose? Do you have a fever? You could have a terrible disease and you shouldn't fly. Like, but I can't just not fly whenever that happens, because those are very common symptoms. I need something more definitive than that. And something, I need to know, well, if it's not definitive, I need to know some soft thing that I can do. Like, if you see something like that, then try to remember the car license plate, or in case something happens later, or try to recognize that person again, or write down their description or something like that. In case something happens later, or in case you see them again, or if you see the same person in the same place multiple days. There's got to be some way. And sometimes I think people who work with this just think it's obvious. It's maybe obvious to people who work with this every day, but for the rest of us who don't think about it at all, except when we're looking at your poster, we